And to join me for the Q&A, we have Mr. Woodie King Jr. I'd just like to give a little background on Woodie. He is an award-winning theater director who attended Lehman College here in New York and later earned his MFA degree at Brooklyn College. In 1965, Woodie joined Mobilization for Youth, where he spent the next 5 years working as the cultural director. And then in 1970, he founded the New Federal Theater and the National Black Touring Circuit in New York City, where he remained as producing director throughout his career and up to this day, in fact. He has produced shows both on and off Broadway, directed performances across the country in venues such as New York Shakespeare Festival, the Cleveland Playhouse, Center Stage of Baltimore, and many, many more. He won a 1988 NAACP Image Award for his direction of Checkmates. I remember that play. That was awesome. Yeah. And in 1993, the Adalco Award for Best Director and Best Play for his production of Robert Johnson, Trick the Devil, as well as an Obie Award, which is amazing. And he was honored with a doctorate in humane letters from Wayne State University, as well as a doctorate of fine arts from the College of Worcester, and is currently directing a theatrical production of Amiri Baraka's The Dutchman at the New Federal, which I hear is going very well. We're going to open this up for questions from the audience, but I just wanted to talk a little bit about some of the characters that were in the film that are amazing. I mean, Tommy Hicks.
She's Gotta Have It.
She's Gotta Have It. Dick Anthony Williams, of course.
Hundreds of films.
Tons of films.
Yeah, as well as Big Rip Off.
And Sonny Jim Gaines.
Yes.
Yes, what a great cast. It was a great cast. And then the co-producer was none other than St. Clair Bourne, who we had a program with on, oh gosh, I'm losing track of days. Thank you, Sunday.
And I think St. Sister is here.
Judy Bourne is here. Where's Judy? There she is. Judy Bourne is here and was here on Sunday along with some other family members. We had a great reunion. And we're actually showing 2 other Saints films in motion about Amiri Baraka, as well as Let the Church Say Amen, which we're showing on Sunday with Al Santana's film, Voices of the Gods. So please come back for that. But Woodie, I first wanted to ask you, given that idea that Saint worked on the film and there was this whole sort of community of actors and directors and writers that really worked together and worked on each other's work, and it seems like it was a very much of a community then. Has that continued today, or how is it different today?
Well, I think it's different because St. Clair was sort of like a premier film person in New York, and I think a lot of us who aspired to do film ended up talking to Saint, and so I would go to him with ideas, different ideas, and this is one idea. He says, look, if you really put it together, I'll work with you on it. And that's what brought us together on The Long Night. And we were, just associates and friends, and we all hung out and laughed together, went to films together. If he saw something in an Ozu film, we would end up looking at the Ozu film and looking at the footage he had described so carefully, And so when we started putting this together, I was telling Jay Kramer we went to see The Bicycle Thief at least 5 or 6 times, And
That's a great film.
And Julian Mayfield novel was written right after The Bicycle Thief came out. Yeah. So I think he was inspired by it as well.
Yeah, there's definitely a little bicycle thief.
Right, a little bicycle thief in there.
And there were some themes that I saw in this film that have sort of been recurring in some of the films that we've been looking at. Now, this film was made in 1974?
76.
76. And so this was a little bit after the Civil Rights Movement, almost 10 years after Dr. King was shot. So this is sort of the period where the Black Power movement is sort of taking a different turn. I mean, the Panthers are still sort of around, but what was happening in the communities, socially, economically, politically, that would encourage you to do a film like this?
Well, what a lot of us had, I was doing a lot of work, recordings and producing records and poetry albums with Motown. And I had gone to Motown for some development money for this. And it's not an exploitation film. That's what we were very clear on. And Saint was he was just so anti those exploitation films. And it was a whole group of us that was so anti-Black exploitation film that we just decided not to see another Black Eater, another Black Caesar, another Hell Up in Harlem, So we started developing other projects, but the system as it existed then, controlled really by independents like New Line Cinema, did not want to get involved in films that cost over $200,000, and The Long Night would cost around $225,000. So they just backed off it. But what was going on politically was an was a movement against Black exploitation films, and a whole group of young filmmakers really wanted to go in another direction.
Well, I mean, because the truth is that those films were making money only for white Hollywood. They weren't really making money for any Black directors, correct?
Right. So if Black directors made the films, that would be the only film they would make. They would not go on to do films that related to everyone. And so what I was trying to do was that was the beginning of this whole thing about ratings. And once we got a G rating, we said, well, families will come and see it if we get a distributor. We had a distributor, and he went out of business 3 months after he took our film. But politically, it was not a kind of movement other than the one that we had been so careful in developing from the Black Arts movement right through a nationalism, right through doing it ourselves, which came out of those movements.
Yes, because I think one of the themes that Jake and I had noticed in terms of programming this series is that there was a West Coast movement going on that we know as the LA Rebellion. And so on the East Coast, there were people like you and Saint and Bill Greaves and people doing a lot of the independent work, but weren't trying to work outside of the Hollywood system.
Well, in Hollywood, Charles Burnett was working outside of that system. Ben Caldwell was working outside of that system. It was a group of just brilliant Hollywood filmmakers that came out of the UCLA Film School.
Right.
And they would really get together with us at different conferences. And those conferences might be on the West Coast, they might be on the East Coast. But the Black Filmmakers Foundation found a way of exploiting our films in Europe, really in London and Paris. And we went to these festivals in Dordogne and France. And this film was in the Moscow Film Festival through the support of connections, really, of St. Clair Bourne. It was bought for television and a lot of German television, German subtitles and all that, But I think it was out of the Black Power movement, out of the nationalist movement, and into a self-awareness, doing it yourself, not waiting for anybody else. I think we must have went to 200 or 300 investors. It was like madness. Some people gave as little as $25.
So pre-crowdfunding.
Yes, pre-crowdfunding. Well, I'm doing a crowdfunding thing now, and someone gave $1.
Oh, wow.
So it's not, it hasn't changed that much.
So did the film ever receive the kind of attention here in the States that you wanted it to receive?
No, it didn't. But it got some great reviews. New York Times gave it a great review. It was a part of the new directors, new films, just well received there. The black newspapers and magazines, there were many more of them. Essence was then reviewing. Core Magazines was then reviewing. They had about 8 or 9 magazines that we just got. They thought it was a great, wonderful look at a family breaking apart and then coming together. And coming together by the son who definitely wanted the presence of the father, you know. And after a while, he even said, "Mommy will take you back because she needs you," you know.
And I do hear that the lead character of the son is with us in the audience tonight. Your son.
Is Jeffrey here?
Did he leave?
But Michael is
I
here.
hear him. He's in the back.
Is Jeffrey? Wait.
Back.
Jeffrey's not here, but the one who played the little kid, Michael is here.
That's Michael played. That's younger son. Okay.
I think Jeffrey went to see. You know, he works for the company that sponsored Kanye West and Rihanna in the concert tonight.
Oh.
So he works for that company. He had to be there.
Okay. Well, we'll excuse him because of that.
Yeah.
But I did want to talk a little bit about the content of the context of the story, and then definitely open it up. You know, this was a great story. It had complex characters. It had, you know, the theme of family and of faith and of the need to belong to a community. And as a young man, having that conflict within yourself about, you know, whether you're going to stand up and be a man or whether you're going to do what your mother tells you, and then the conflict between the parents. I mean, it has so many complex themes that, you know, seem to get left out of a lot of films today. We don't see that often.
Well, I think, I don't know if any of you know the work of Julian Mayfield. Julian Mayfield was worked in Ghana, worked in Guyana as Minister of Culture. Before that, he wrote a lot of novels. Before that, he did work as an actor at City Center here in New York. He was a part of the radical left. And the radical left believed in writing strong, technically crafted scripts. And those, you know, he was at the New School. He was also worked with Mario Piscata. These guys really wrote brilliant scripts. And so when I got this script, it was not like anything I had to do was sort of like bringing up 5 to 10 years, you know, because he meant for it to be set in 1945 so it would tie into the new wave of films that he felt would really be a part of America. And I think we got it in there some way.
Yes, you did.
We sneaked it in there, you know.
Definitely.
And it really gave me an unbelievable look at New York at night. 75% of the film was shot at night. And getting permits then was so much easier. I mean, we lit up 2 blocks on 7th Avenue between 116th and 118th. That's, you know, where he found his dad. But we were able to light 2 blocks as an independent. That's almost impossible.
No, yeah, these days.
Yeah.
And the block where they lived, that was Hamilton Terrace.
That was Hamilton Terrace.
I know that was the first block I lived on when I came to New York. I thought I recognized that.
Yeah.
So, questions. Music was awesome.
All the music was original by Michael Felder. And now here's the weird part about the music, okay? I'm from Mobile, Alabama, okay? And 2 of my cousins was looking for work in New York. And they said, "Oh, man, where you looking?" Well, we write songs and we do all this, right? And it was like a light bulb when I said, what? And he said, come into the studio, man. And they had this little studio in Queens, and I went to the studio. I said, oh, why don't you write music for the film? And they had to do 3 originals, but the other they had Steely and The Long Night, and the very last tune they wrote. And the soundtrack came out for a minute, and now I have all these copies of it that was found in a warehouse, and my name was on it. They said, "Are you Woodie King?" I said, "Yeah." We have all these records here.
Oh.
Yeah. Remember, this was 1976. This film was made 1976, 86, 96, 206. And these records came to me in maybe 207. Are you the Woodie King who make films? Yes. We have a lot of stuff.
And tell us what you're holding in your lap.
These are, I knew it would be an audience. I didn't know if, usually when these kind of screenings happen, there's no information that the audience can take home and read further. So my office said, why don't you give them the ad as they appeared back then, and a write-up on the kid, Jeffrey. And
we have the original ad from the film.
It was in Variety.
That was in Variety.
Yeah. So we
so Woodie brought copies for all of you.
I brought copies for this. So what we would, we took over a house on Convent. We just took over everything, and we had honey wagons and everything, food on the first floor, the crew, and Jim Malloy, who was the cameraman, A.B. Bernard. These were just wonderful guys, just wonderful guys. Judy Deering did the costumes. It was like I can't say it was a family working together, but it was, Well, the distribution that we got when we first did it, I said Mauler Films, didn't last. The company went out of business. I forgot Mr. Mauler's first name, but he died, He had a really thriving company, and he was trying to break out of the exploitation film market. And it was shown at 2 or 3 places in New York. There was a theater on 7th Avenue and 145th Street called Roosevelt, I think. It was shown there. East 11th Street screening room. It's now Senegal, part of a Senegal. But it had 3 or 4 screenings, but we did get some just wonderful reviews. It's available on DVD, but that's not with a distributor.
Through you.
Yeah, and I think it's just, I try to do that with a couple other films. It's just too difficult to self-distribute. Well, if someone wanted it, like if you wanted it, I would say I would just make sure you got a copy. Just give me your card and I'll make sure you get a copy. Well, when I was in film school, I was at NYU in film school. This was it was when they had the big, huge cameras. They didn't have all the stuff they have now. And man, we would be there. We were hauling big cameras. There was a guy, he went on to become very famous, named Robert Sudak in television. He was our teacher. So, I went to film school for 1.5 years or 2 years. But theater kept taking me away. I just kept getting another play I had to do, because there was no one else doing them. If Ed Bullins came in with a play and he said, man, I've been trying to get this on 1 year. And Ron Milner came and said, I've been trying to get this on 2 or 3 years. And then you think, wow, I can get this on next month. So
a lot easier than a film production.
Yeah, it was a lot easier than a film production. But the gathering of film people is so much richer than the gathering of theater people. Now, why is that? I think because they are more disciplined in their very specific area. Like a production manager, that's what he does. A production designer, could come in this room and redesign this room. You're going to shoot in this corner. That corner, you're going to shoot over here. It'll be totally different, but it's the same room. You know what I mean? That's what I found difference in film. Now, in terms of directing films, I know people who work in theater could direct films as well as they could direct theater, but they're not given that opportunity. Like in the 40s and the 50s, if you had a hit Broadway show and Harold Clurman directed it, and it went to Hollywood, it would be a Hollywood movie Harold Clurman would have directed. You know? If Kazan directed Streetcar Named Desire and went to Hollywood, he was going to direct the film version. That's not it as a result of the whole new wave of filmmakers. Young filmmakers out of film school do their own writing, do their own directing, and sometimes their own camera work.
I want to ask why you chose to give the film the sepia tint to it, the sepia film.
Because I wanted to make sure it was the present and the past. Okay, the sepia was the past. So coming into the present, it was all color, full color. You know, a brighter day, a more now look. The sepia tone, if any of you hit that, was harder to develop. That was the only problem with that. It was a little harder to develop. Anybody?
One last question, yes.
Yes, that was Roger. That was the famous Roger Furman. Pardon? Roger Furman did a cameo. You know, he was also what was the film that Ivan Dixon did with Abby Lincoln? Nothing But a Man. He did the set for he production designed that film. One of the first production designers in a major film.
Nothing But a Man's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, the process is a theater process, really. You just really talk about what the person is experiencing, and then you say, it really doesn't matter if you walk over there or you walk over here. The camera will find you. Now, we'll try it a couple of times, and if the kid says, I feel better if I just stand here. I don't feel like, I feel better if it's here. And we had a wonderful cameraman, Jim Malloy, who could follow that and light that, you know.
Because the way he shot that fight scene, the opening fight scene, that was incredible.
Yeah, with a camera overhead,
yeah,
and zooming down, and
beautiful camera work, and a beautiful film.
Thank you.
And we thank you for it, Woodie. And we hope to see you back over the weekend. And Woodie has some takeaway materials for you. Thanks for bringing those. Thank you so much.